Hi, I'm Rochelle Ireland and this is my channel Sneaky Funny Sewing. Today's project is so useful and it is one of my most used items in my sewing room. Not only that, it's great for using up those scraps from past projects and it's zero waste. It's a needle sorting pillow. I keep this beside my sewing machine and whenever I switch between projects or mid-project, I can put the needles into one of these categories. I went through my sewing needles to make this and figured out which needles I use most. So I have denim, woven, stretch, and microtex for all the different kinds of fabric that I typically sew. You can do the same thing. You could go through your needles and figure out what sizes you use most, customize this to be your own categories, as many as you want across and as many as you want down, depending on how many different needles that you use in your sewing machine typically. This is a great gift for any sewist in your life. It's quick to make. You only need fabric paint, some canvas or heavy broadcloth, a black pin, hand sewing materials, a sewing needle, some thread, perhaps a threader, scissors, and your basic sewing machine. So let's get started. Start by printing off the free PDF pattern that I have on my website, RochelleIreland.com. For this project, you'll need a ruler, a pencil, a pen, a sewing gauge, fabric paint, and some scraps. Cut 2 pieces of canvas to make your pillow. So my lighting might be a little weird in this shot. So what I want to do is teach you how to do transfer using your little pattern piece that you can print out from my freebies section on my website for your needle sorting pillow. You can do this transfer if you have carbon paper or transfer paper. You can use that to transfer your design onto your canvas. But the method I'm going to show you right now will be using this window and just a normal HB lead pencil. And we're going to use our window as a light source, as sort of a makeshift light table. And we're going to trace off our grid. This is how you can do transfers when you don't have carbon paper. Notice I've placed my pattern piece right side facing the window, and I'm tracing the grid onto the back side of the page. Another way to do this would be to scribble graphite over the whole grid and cover it that way. It takes more lead, but it might be faster. Make sure you use quite a heavy layer of graphite. This will help the design to transfer onto our canvas in a later step. You want to make sure this is what you end up with when you're all done, the reverse image on the back, and you want to make those lines nice and dark because it will make the next step a whole lot easier when you go to transfer this onto our canvas. Place your pattern piece on top of the canvas, right sides facing up. Trace over the top of the lines on the right side this time. Now darken up the lines that you've just transferred using the pencil. It's time to get out your fabric paint and darken up those lines with fabric paint. Let the fabric paint dry before moving on to the next step. Once dry, we'll be writing in our categories of needles using a pen. I chose denim, woven, stretch, and microtex as my categories. Time to pin our pillow together. Pin all the edges together, leave a gap for turning along one side. I marked this gap using double pins. Now it's time to sew our pillow. I like to go back and forth a couple times at the beginning and end of my stitching. The gap you leave should be at least 2 inches big. Now it's time to stuff our pillow with leftover fabric scraps. This is a great project for using up tiny scraps that won't work for much else. First, we'll be trimming our seam allowances. Trim the corners as shown, close to the stitches but not through them. This will give you nice sharp corners when you turn everything right side. Next, trim your seam allowances with pinking shears. Now turn your pillow right side out. I like to use a closed pair of scissors to poke out my corners. Now you can put all the scraps that you cut off from your seam allowances into your pillow. And you can begin stuffing your pillow with fabric scraps that were left over from past projects. The last step will be to fold over your seam allowances to the inside and hand stitch the gap that we left shut. Your needle sorting pillow is done. Thanks for watching. For more, visit RochelleIreland.com.